Silence was the first teacher. Before books, before doctrines, before philosophies were shaped into systems, there were human beings who simply stopped running. They stepped out of cities, out of ambition, out of identity, and into deserts. Not to escape life, but to understand it. They became known as the Desert Fathers. Their collected writings would later form one of the deepest spiritual treasures in history, the Philokalia. The word itself means love of the beautiful, not beauty as decoration, but beauty as truth revealed in stillness. At the heart of the Philokalia is a single, unsettling insight. The human being is not healed by adding more, but by removing what is false, not by stimulation, but by purification, not by control of the world, but by watchfulness of the heart. Evagrius of Pontus writes, "Sit in your cell, and your cell will teach you everything." The cell was not merely a room, it was the nervous system, the interior world, the battlefield of thoughts, fears, memories, cravings, and imagined futures. Evagrius also states, "If you are a theologian, you will pray truly, and if you pray truly, you are a theologian." For the fathers, theology was not information, it was transformed perception. They called the central practice nepsis, watchfulness, a steady, sober attention to the movements of thought before thought hardens into identity, not repression, not indulgence, clear seeing. Modern neuroscience now confirms what these desert monks lived directly. When attention is scattered, the nervous system fragments, fear multiplies, hormones flood, identity tightens. But when attention becomes unified, coherence emerges. The body reorganizes. The brain quiets. The heart settles into rhythm. Stillness restores biological order. But for the Desert Fathers, the goal was not regulation, it was transformation of being, theosis, participation in divine life. Gregory Palamas would later articulate this with clarity. God in essence remains beyond comprehension, but God in energies enters the human body, mind, and heart as living fire. The human being does not become God by nature, but becomes godlike by participation. This was not poetry, it was process. The Philokalia constantly returns to the heart, not as symbol, but as center. The deep psychophysiological core where attention, consciousness, breath, and being converge. Saint Hesychios, the priest, writes, "Watchfulness is a spiritual method which, if sedulously practiced over a long period, completely frees us, with God's help, from impassioned thoughts, impassioned words, and evil actions." Note the realism, long period. Sedulously practiced, no instant awakening, no bypass. When the mind descends into the heart, when thought dissolves into prayer, when awareness becomes single rather than scattered, the nervous system enters an entirely different mode. Identity loosens its grip. Fear loses velocity. The compulsive narrator weakens. Isaac the Syrian writes, "Silence is the mystery of the age to come. Prayer is the expression of this age. Words belong to time. Stillness belongs to eternity." Scientific language now mirrors this with different terms: parasympathetic dominance, vagal tone, cortical quieting, heart-brain synchrony. What the fathers called hesychia, deep stillness, we now describe as the body entering coherent regulation. Their fasting was not punishment, it was neurological recalibration. Their solitude was not loneliness, it was decompression of attention. Their tears were not failure, they were discharge of stored suffering from the body. Saint John Climacus writes, "Let the memory of Jesus be united to your every breath, and then you will know the value of stillness." Breath, attention, name, nervous system, heart, all united into a single rhythm. One of the great misunderstandings of modern spirituality is that awakening is an intellectual event. The Philokalia never supported that vision. Knowledge without purification was considered dangerous. The nervous system must be prepared for truth, not merely the intellect. Saint Maximus the Confessor explains, when the soul is dominated by the passions, it is unable to perceive things as they are. Fear distorts reality. Desire bends meaning. Anger collapses clarity into justification. The first labor of theosis is therefore not moral perfection, but perceptual purification. This is the deep psychology of the Philokalia long before trauma theory, before somatic therapy, before neuroscience. The heart stores images, the nervous system holds unfinished emotion. Stillness allows these formations to unwind without force. In modern language, we would say the body relearns safety. But the Desert Fathers did not pursue emotional regulation as a goal. Regulation was a side effect. Union was the aim. Saint Diadochos of Photiki writes, when the intellect begins to sense the grace of the Holy Spirit, it no longer wishes to find consolation in earthly things. Not through suppression, through replacement by a deeper saturation. As the mind becomes single, as desire refines, as fear dissolves, the human being becomes transparent, and through transparency, divine life flows. This is why the Philokalia speaks endlessly of purity of heart, not moral rigidity, but perceptual clarity. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Seeing here does not mean visual perception. It means participation in reality without distortion. Hesychia is the name of that state. Deep stillness. A rest so profound it cannot be manufactured. It arises when the false self no longer needs to perform. The modern self is built on noise. Identity maintained through reaction, comparison, productivity, conflict. The Hesychist self dissolves all of this. What remains is presence without commentary. This presence is what the Fathers called the natural state of the soul. The Philokalia does not reject the world, it rejects illusion. It does not oppose embodiment, it redeems embodiment. The body becomes luminous not through stimulation, but through surrender. There is no bypass here. Every thought is examined. Every passion is confronted. Every justification exposed. The practice is not dramatic. It is repetitive. Sit, watch, pray, return, again, again, again. Yet over time, something irreversible occurs. The sense of being a separate psychological object begins to weaken. The fear of extinction softens. The body no longer feels like an enemy. The world becomes transparent. This is theosis in its original meaning. Not becoming special, becoming real. And this transformation was never reserved for monks alone. The Philokalia never claimed exclusivity. It offered a map of human potential. The Desert Fathers simply had the courage to follow it without compromise. Their caves were not escapes. They were laboratories. Today, the environment is different, but the nervous system is the same. The human being still contracts under fear, still fragments under overstimulation, still suffers under imagined identity, and still heals through the exact same doorway. Stillness, watchfulness, prayer, surrender. The modern world worships speed. The Philokalia whispers depth, and depth always rearranges power. Theosis is not upward movement. It is inward collapse of illusion. It does not inflate the ego. It dissolves it. What emerges is not a superhuman. It is a human finally aligned with reality. Saints were not divine anomalies. They were human beings without internal contradiction. And that possibility remains open.
If you are tired of working hard without seeing real results, the Abundance Code shows you exactly why effort alone is not enough. This book reveals how your nervous system, subconscious patterns, and emotional regulation directly control your money, success, relationships, and energy levels. Most people try to change their life through motivation. This book shows you how to change it through physiology and awareness. You will learn why stress blocks abundance, how survival patterns sabotage financial decisions, how inner regulation creates outer stability, how clarity replaces self-sabotage, why stillness creates decisive action. This is not theory. It is a practical system for rebuilding your inner foundation so your outer life finally works. The Abundance Code is available now on Amazon as Kindle, paperback, and hardcover. Search the Abundance Code on Amazon and start building real abundance from the inside out.